Okay, hello, one and all, and welcome to yet another episode of Interstellar Radio podcast focused on NACL, partnered with Supernova. And as per usual, hosting it tonight is going to be myself, RMC, along with Gordo. And you can see on your screens, of course, we've got two lovely guests with us. We'll introduce both of them. First is, of course, ZZ Legendary, the legend himself, former coach for Dignitas Academy, current coach for Supernova. And alongside him, of course, is the team manager Shirley, team manager, socials, and I believe slave driver as well of the Supernova team. So, welcome both of you. Before I let y'all introduce yourself, I'm going to quickly let you know we like to introduce our guests with a game of two truths and a lie. So, there's two of you, and I believe Shirley wanted to go first. So, Shirley, would you like to introduce yourself with your two truths and a lie?
Yeah, so you already introduced my title and stuff, so I guess we'll just start. So my two truths and a lie. Number one, I've played on LCS stage.
Okay.
Number two is that I've peaked Challenger 700 LP in 120 games. And then my third is that I've only ever been to one league event.
Okay. So, played on the LCS stage, peaked 700 LP in 120 games. All right.
Yeah.
That's very specific, very oddly
Very
specific.
specific. The the first and the third feel tough to jive with each other, but that I feel like that's a trap. That's got to be. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming playing on LCS stage is like absurd enough that it seems like it might be true. Like
Well, she
maybe.
was in Game Changers, and Shirley was, I believe, second with
Yeah.
Oh well, then
Arcana.
that's easy.
Middle of
Yeah,
So,
that definitely was. So, but that counts as going to a league event, surely.
wait,
So
let's
the
see.
question is, she ever been to another one?
ZZ, did you vet your team manager? Do you know what her highest LP
I'm not.
Are
I'm
we
not
allowed to
helping
resist
here. I'm
them
not
against
helping
each
here.
other?
No, 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 no. You're on
No,
your own.
ZZ!
He could help. I don't think he knows.
I don't know. I don't know at all. But it's up to you guys, anyways.
Okay, fair
Feel
enough,
that
fair
could
enough.
help. I wouldn't.
Okay, you've only been to one league event. Do you mean like you've only attended one, or you've only participated in one?
It's up to interpretation.
Surely it's got to be attended. Been to means attended.
Well, she's definitely been to one at least. For
Well, that's has she been to a second one? Is the question, or is just one of the numbers in the second one wrong?
okay, we gotta call this card. I'm going with the second one. 700 LP
I'm
in
in gonna go with the
120
second
games
one
is
too.
is pretty
It's too
specific.
specific.
Shirley?
Okay, so it's the third one, but
No!
technically also the second one because it's
Oh?
technically 124 games and
Oh,
705 LP. But the second or the third one's a lie because up until Game Changers, I had only been to one league event, which was LCS Finals in Chicago in 2022.
Hey.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I've been to two league events now after Game Changers.
All right.
Fair enough. So two
Should have gone
lies
with
and a
my.
truth we had with that one. Yeah. You know what? We'll call it fifth.
No,
We'll call it a point. You know
I'll
what?
accept
Yeah.
number two as a truth. The numbers were off by little enough that I'll accept it as a truth.
And hopefully soon enough that might be three league events or more. You know,
Yeah.
hopefully NPL and other events get to be live on stage or something like that. And next up, ZZ, of course, head coach. Your two truths and a lie, please.
yeah. So I mean, I've been around for a while. I'm an old man. Okay. So the first one dates to 2013, season 3. It was the first time that
Okay.
people came to NA for Worlds. There was the first NA Worlds. I was
Right.
high on the ladder at that point, and then I played versus Faker 2 times and managed to beat him. So that's the number one. Number
Okay.
two is when I worked for Cloud9. I worked for Cloud9 Training Grounds during COVID. I was a coach and a curriculum director there. One of the biggest hit activities that I designed was an overcooked session to teach players basically communications and stress management. And we did overcooked VOD reviews. So that's number two. And number three
I
is
want that to be true.
I was actually an in-person teacher for an esports class for high school kids for 2 years, full-time teacher.
For high school kids, you said.
Yeah, high school esports class.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna say this. I want number two to be true so badly.
I think I caught him. I think I caught him. RMC. Why would
Oh.
you say
Oh.
in person for number three? I bet it was like remote. I bet he did it remotely, and the trick is that he was an in person. esports teacher in high
Am I
school.
allowed to guess too?
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
you
Go
if
for
you
it.
Yes.
want to get,
Okay.
he wouldn't betray you, but you're welcome to make whatever choices you like.
Was season 3 Worlds in NA? Because
It
season 2
was.
was in NA. Okay.
And he was high on the ladder in season 3. I think.
I can believe that.
Oh, what was that roster you played for back then in like Mobile Fire or
Uh,
something like that?
I played for Complexity Academy.
Complexity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you're definitely that's potentially true. Season 3 was when Faker first showed up, right? He wasn't well known
Yes.
at the time.
Barcode Killer, if you want his
Barcode
IGN.
Kill. Okay, okay. I think he's prepped this really well. Oh,
Yeah,
that
I don't know.
in-person
That
one.
sounds like that's like the most believable. It would be like, yeah, I don't know. It's
Okay. Yeah.
Worlds was still a month.
Played against Faker twice and beat
Yeah.
him back
Faker
in
was here
solo
for a
queue back
long
then.
time because they won.
Definitely grinded
Like
games.
that would have been a lot of games. Yeah, ZZ would have been grinding at the time. I think that's super believable.
Okay, so Gordo, what's
I'm going with number 3. I'm going number
you
3.
guys
I
number
think
3?
something
Okay. You think
detailed
you
on
didn't?
this esports class is wrong. Probably that it was in person.
Okay, you know what? I'm gonna go with number 1. I think you played Faker more than twice. I don't know if you beat him or not. You probably beat him once, right?
What about
Okay,
Shirley?
which one is it?
I
Shirley
guess
Oh
wants to
yeah,
guess.
3. I
You
guess
guessed 3?
3.
3?
Okay,
Okay.
it was indeed number 1. That was the lie. It's
Yeah.
not that I played against him more than twice. It's that he actually completely clapped me, and it was not even close. So that was the lie. That guy was on another level. He was warming up his Riven mid, and I was playing Lux, and I played versus him 2 times in a row, and he dove me level 4 both
That's the
games.
Riven
And
mid that he
Wow.
crushed Reggie with,
yeah,
right?
no, he crushed everyone with. I got absolutely ran. It was unreal. Like I had never been gapped that hard.
Yo, this
I tried
wait,
ZZ to give you the benefit of the doubt here, man.
Yeah, no,
I'm gonna
I respect it, but I'll be honest. I have to be honest at this point.
this is a complete side rail from what we have planned to talk about, but I need to ask the group this question because
Okay.
it's haunted me forever and I never get the opportunity to ask it. Do you guys have I feel like I've been Mandela affected here. Do you guys have memories of season 3 Worlds of Reggie and Faker playing the Zed Riven 1v1, Faker winning it and then them swapping sides and Faker winning it on the opposite side?
Oh, I don't remember those games particularly. No, I remember the
Okay, because
Yeah.
finals
I
because I
feel
went
like
to
it's
the
become like a
finals.
mythos in my friend group, and we went back like a year ago to look at the match history, and one of those games never happened. They never played the mirror. But we have
Oh, I
been
see.
like, I could have
Okay.
sworn that I've talked with a million different people about them playing both sides of the mirror, and those games never happened. I feel like the whole, either just my friend group or a larger section of the community have Mandela affected themselves into believing that both halves of those matchups happened.
I don't
I
remember that
I have no
like.
either.
recollection of that.
I feel like I forget
Alright.
so many of NA's games at international
I
tournaments.
mean,
Like you just don't want to remember, you know.
Little
like,
repression going on.
Yeah, a little bit.
I've watched League events since season 2 Worlds, but every year that passes, I just completely forget like anything that happens.
Yeah, I mean it's hard unless it's like a crazy memorable like game. It feels like they just start blending together. I've been watching League too long.
I feel like our producer just flamed us. She just messaged us in the group chat saying that that was before her time, so she doesn't remember. Whereas every person in this call just went, "Season 3, yeah, we can't recall it because it's been too long." And she's just like, "Yeah, I didn't even start playing
Oh
back
yeah,
then."
like those. That's this false memory is like the only thing I remember about season 3 Worlds. So
You just
what can you
created
do?
a game that didn't happen. That's wild.
I know. I mean, I don't. I just, I'm imagining NA getting clapped in ways that we didn't
Yeah,
even get
yeah.
clapped.
It's
I
just
don't.
too easy to imagine it. It's too easy.
It's too easy. It's too
But yeah,
easy. All right.
the overcooked VOD reviews did happen since you were saying that you wanted that to
Yes.
happen. That was fun. I tried to get Shirley to play Overcooked with me, but she denied it, so that apparently can't happen.
Well,
And then
maybe if you gift it to me, I'll think about it.
oh, okay.
Okay, okay.
We'll get that worked out. We'll get that worked out. And
It's
then
recorded right now. Supernova,
for
please make it
number
happen.
3, yeah, just quickly to wrap it up. Yeah, number 3, like I did work for 2 years as an esports teacher in Montreal. There was a business called Montreal Esports. This is where kind of I
Hey.
started my coaching arc. And I always shout them out because it's like kind of thanks to them that I got a lot of my initial experience and that I got to get further along. So yeah, that was really fun. 2 years of coaching high school kids in person. The in person was true. It was not a fake detail. It was during
Nice
COVID,
touch.
also, which was quite challenging, but yeah, very fun.
Okay,
Wow.
so addendum to that, is it easier to coach the high school kids or the Supernova roster?
Oh, it's very different.
Wait
It's
a
very different. Because I mean, I'm not gonna take Supernova roster particularly. I'm gonna because I did Supernova, I did Dig Academy, and I did or Dig Challengers rather, and I did EG
Mhm.
Academy. And like the challenges in Pro are pretty similar across all teams, and then the challenges with like lower elo are like completely different as well.
Okay.
So I would say it's usually easier to teach like lower elo kids because like they don't there's no like
Ego. Oh,
they
ego.
rarely like like resist your points really hard, or they don't have like the ego because they're like where can it come from, you know? And then pro players like typically it's not harder like as in it's more difficult. It's more like it takes more effort to get a point across sometimes because the player has like more experience.
Very diplomatic answer.
No, I
Supernova,
mean
drop the
it's
refill.
such a true answer. It's a true answer. Like when you can teach lower year old people, they'll just believe anything you say. So you can be like a fake coach, and then like it doesn't matter. Like it doesn't matter what you say,
Yeah,
which
just
is like
tell
kind
them
of
that in season 3, Faker won both sides of the Zed Ribbon matchup, right?
yeah, exactly, right. Yeah.
Absolutely true. Well, that's a perfect jumping off point to the first thing we wanted to talk about a little bit because Easy,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're a fan coming on in, if you're not super familiar with your background, as I also wasn't. I mean, I didn't know about this coaching in Montreal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does, just glance at your Leaguepedia, it really does feel like you kind of came out of nowhere,
Yeah.
coming into EG Academy. So really curious about kind of what your journey looks like prior to that because it feels like it's super rare that we see somebody come up coaching in tier 2 who wasn't previously coaching in tier 3 and wasn't previously a player, stuff like that. You were a player but not like
Yeah.
actively in the scene right before that. So yeah, kind of curious as to what your journey looked like and how you found
Uh,
yourself on EG Academy in 2022.
sure. I'll make the long story short because I am 28 and I've been playing like competitive games since I was like 13, 14. First starting with like Halo 3 on Xbox 360. So I'm not gonna go through the all the years, but basically for League, like I started playing League before season 1 started, just as a for fun with like some of my Xbox friends. Didn't really touch it too much until later season 2, when I kind of got bored of console games and wanted to start playing PC games. So I focused on League more from like the second half of season 2. I got to like Platinum, which at the time there was no Master, no Challenger, nothing. So like Platinum was like okay, but nothing really special. And then season 3, I started like hard grinding. Like I dropped like every other game, and I just like started really focusing on League. And I created a YouTube channel as well to like record my ranked games and talk out loud. I'm a big yapper, as you will probably learn about me really soon. So I would just kind of like record my POV and talk out loud about my thought process. And I found it was cool to post like a high elo POV to YouTube. Most people did not do that. I was kind of one of the only ones back then. And then it also helped me like I could like VOD review my own thoughts in that sense because I could go back and say like what in the world was I saying there? Like what am I yapping about? So that's where I really started. And I got to around rank 50 on the ladder, which was like my peak on solo queue. Um and someone just added me, someone from solo queue added me and said like, "Hey, we have a French Canadian team. I'm French Canadian, I'm from Montreal. We have a French Canadian team. We're looking for an 80 carry." But I was a mid laner at the time. So I subbed for them. It was Complexity Academy, the team I talked about earlier. So I subbed for them a little bit at the beginning, and then we did some trials, and then I was watching their mid laner play. I'm not gonna name who it was, and I was like, "Wow, I'm pretty sure I'm like way better than this guy." So then I told them like, "Okay, I
Why
know
would
you're
you
looking for an
name them?
ADC, but let's find." Sorry,
Why won't you name them?
I'm
Yeah,
not gonna flame, bro. I'm not
this is
gonna
a
Yeah,
meat
flame.
shoot. This
retired
is
by
like a
now. It's
decade
fine.
ago, man.
I mean, okay, sure. His name was Vlox. Okay, he was like
No
Oriana
idea.
Syndrome main, and then he still played for like years after. So, anyway, so I was like, I was watching him get like 0-man ultis in our scrims, and I'm like, okay, dude, like, can you just let me play mid? And then I played some mid. We started stomping like every scrim and started doing really well. So they benched him, and then we found another ADC instead. And yeah, so I played with them for like a year, maybe almost. We were like back then, it was not ranked flex, it was ranked 5v5, and that's how you could get into actual like challenger tournaments. You had to have like a high ranked team on the 5v5 ladder, and then that was kind of like tier 2 or tier 3. It was legitimately in the client. You climb your team up, and then you can access tournaments if you're challenger in that league. So we were like rank 1 for a while, like 6 months in a row. And that's where I kind of got my start was sort of season 3, and then season 4 I played with them a bit more, and then I subbed a little bit later for Curse Academy, Curse, which is now Team Liquid. So I played like competitive for a year and a half, and then I really like burnt out. It was not what it was today to go pro. There was no franchising. It was minimum wage, no coach, nothing. You go into a house with other like nerds with no social skills, and you just pray that like I don't know, life figures itself out. So at the time, it was a bit scary. And even though we were at the point where we would scrim the bottom LCS team sometimes, I knew like I had maybe a chance. I'm not sure, but it was way too risky. So I kind of dropped that. Now fast forward to what we were talking about earlier with the Montreal coaching. So I kind of quit league for 3 4 years. Come back around season 7 and 8 when I started attending college. So I was playing a bit of CLOL at the time. So I kind of came back to competitive, played some CLOL, and then through that network made some contacts in Montreal. And then I ended up joining Montreal Esports Academy, which was a business which they had like an Overwatch team or something, and it flopped. And then they're like, okay, let's instead of just like dropping out, we'll try to make like a coaching business where we offer boot camps for younger kids, so that they have like proper training around their hobby. And we had some like health, like we had like a girl who was working for like physical health and conditioning. We had a guy who was working for psychology, and I was working for like the actual game theory. And so we kind of made like the whole package deal, sold it to parents, etc. And sold it to schools eventually. And so that's where I really kickstarted my coaching. It was kind of like my CLOL team. I was kind of captain slash coach, and then in Montreal, I did 2 years of working with a lot of different ELO of high school kids, different personalities, etc. And then that's why I kind of came out of nowhere, I guess, because I had a lot of experience doing that. And then Cloud9 decided to open up online boot camps during COVID for those who were not aware, which was Cloud9 Training Grounds, which was basically the exact thing I had been doing for 2 years. And then they were trying to recruit people. And I had a friend, well, I still have her as a friend, Vienna, who's a big VTuber for Cloud9 now. I knew her and she plugged me and she said, oh, they're looking for coaches. Like maybe you should apply. So I took the interview there. They liked me, and then I got into Cloud9, and then they liked the stuff that I did. So I rose like a little bit up the ranks in that program, and then from that program I made more contacts, and then I met Kelsey Moser, who was EG with Kelsey and Peter Dunn at the time. Were basically one of the only orgs to have like fully open interviews for a position in like tier 2 or tier 1 even, which is also why I guess you don't see many people like come out of nowhere for tier 2 because it's very
Yeah.
selective. Like usually people pick people they already know. So yeah, huge shout outs to Kelsey and Peter Dunn for doing full open interviews. I think about 100 people interviewed for academy head coach, and
Wow.
I ended up being the lucky one to get it. Um, so yeah, that's why I came out of nowhere. I just did stuff in the background back in the old days, the grassroots days where like nothing was going on. And then I did stuff like locally in Montreal for a while. And suddenly I made contacts and there I was in LA coaching EG Academy. And then after EG went to Dig the next year, and now with the whole NACL restructuring, I mean most orgs are out. So I'm now on Supernova with the boys. Pretty happy to be there. So yeah, that's the shortest form answer I can give you to the story about kind of how I got here from being like basically a nobody at that point.
Literally a
No,
decade worth of life.
Yeah,
yeah, no,
Yeah, you're
it's a
old.
that's
lot of
awesome
stuff.
though. We had wish we could have bring out Kelsey back for this one to talk about open interviews because I'm sure there's 99 other interviews with plenty of stories associated with
Oh
them.
yeah, there was a
Uh,
lot. Like Kelsey was messaging me and she was like freaking out because it was like hours and hours and hours of interviews. But to be fair, Peter Dunn also kept doing that. They did it for Heretics as well this
Oh
year for
wow.
LEC, which I tried to get into as well. I narrowly did not make it, but yeah, Peter Dunn also huge respect to Peter. He really values like not nepotism and not connections, but rather like I'll just give everyone a shot and then I'll pick the like I'll pick the people I think are most deserving.
That's awesome to hear. I think that's a great segue into a little bit more recent history. I wanted to ask you about as
Yeah,
well. Specifically that 2023 Dig roster
yeah,
Mm.
that you guys made a run to finals with. I think like looking back in that preseason, it felt like that wasn't a team people were super hyped on. I think people were a lot higher on like the TL, the 100 Thieves challengers at the time was really good. Cloud9 challengers,
yeah.
CLG challengers people liked as well. Felt like Fly Challengers was really hyped up, and people were kind of looking more at Dignitas as a little bit more of a mid-tier team, but that team made a fantastic run, and then since that one run and then the disbanding, you've had 4 of those guys go on to LCS, 3 of them
Yeah.
hanging out up there still. Just kind of curious what your thoughts are on how that team came together. Like, did you guys anticipate that you were going to be so good? Did you know, like, I got a team full of future LCS players here, or
I mean,
did it kind of surprise even you guys how well it gelled?
from the beginning, those were some players that had a bit of LCS experience, like
Sure.
like our bot side, right? Like Insanity had a little bit of time in there, Tomo and Diamond had a little bit of time in there, which was odd. And then Hoon as well had a bit of a time in there, and then
Even
it
XU
made
did too at that time.
yeah, true, yeah, at that point as well. And then at some point, some people like it was weird because some people thought that that team was like not good because like it was like washed players or whatever, like players that like couldn't make it or whatever the reason. And then some people supposedly called us like a veteran team, right? Of which was kind of interesting, um, to see like the different opinions. I mean, personally, I've known Diamond for a while.
Mhm.
I'm happy to be working with him still. He's a very hard worker and he's very, very smart about the game. And he will always be like trying to help everyone and just he's like a kind of an open book, which is nice to work with because one of the rare players that can just like you'll know everything he's thinking about. He'll just tell you. So great guy, and I already knew like knowing him from the past, and then knowing that like Tomo was pretty much a hot commodity at that point, like in terms of ADC, and they were pairing for a while. That like I had a reliable bot lane that's strong and that we can work through. And then Insanity is also like like a crazy mid laner. Like he's gonna whip out so many weird picks, but he actually
Right.
pilots them well, and he constantly practices. Like he's kind of a grinder. Most people don't know. XU I knew as well from Cloud9 training grounds. He was more of like I would say like the rookie of that team, because he hadn't been around competitive for that long. But I had interacted with him a lot through Cloud9 training grounds as well. He was like working in there for a while. Hoon I did not know much about, and without any flame or anything, like his last year was not that great. But Hoon really showed up. Like there was just destroying everyone that split, which was crazy. So I was like expecting to have like a really really strong bot side, and I was expecting to like focus on like adding Hoon to the mix, but he just added himself in. Like it was crazy. Like working with Hoon was so easy. Like the guy's just crazy grinder, like nonstop working at the office, like nonstop watching VODs, like just nonstop improvement. It almost felt like I didn't have to do anything. I just had to talk with him about how he felt about his matchups and like which type of comps he wanted to slot which champions in, and like the job was done at that point. Like he almost always had good mental, like amazing player there. So going into that split, I already had a good idea that like we had a really strong foundation to like soar quite high. And when I was talking to the GM about it, he was like, "Oh, like every time I ask my coach, like I want like a brutally honest place of like where do you put us?" And I basically just said like I'm pretty sure unless like I hard grief or like someone in the team like goes crazy, like we're guaranteed top 3. And then like I want to push
Okay.
for finals and I want to push for the whole thing with that team. So like from the beginning, like I already knew I wanted to like try to get the trophy with these. And we were also a lot of people that kind of had like a bad year the year before and wanted to prove people wrong. So there was a fire lit under everyone. Like I had a rough year with EG Academy. Um, Hoon had a bad year. Bot lane had like a rough year with Fly, etc. Like everyone kind of like had something to prove, you know. And I feel like
Mhm.
when everyone has the same fire and the same motivation, like that's when you know like things can go real crazy. And it did. I'm really happy of how that split went. Kind of sad that NACL exploded and we didn't get to play another split together. We were really looking forward to that. But yeah.
Well, hopefully, I mean, some of them are still here in NACL. Others have
Yeah.
moved up, so I guess it's still a net positive. And speaking of which, DZ, I did want to ask you a little bit about the Supernova roster because, as you pointed out, Diamond, you're still working with
Yeah.
him here in Supernova. So, did you bring Diamond on, or did Diamond bring you on? Like,
This
how did that
offseason,
work out?
yeah, the offseason was a bit crazy. I'm how do I say this without sounding like I have ego? It's a bit difficult. Okay.
Just have
So
ego.
Just show the ego. Show the
You
ego.
have
okay.
Let's go for it.
So this offseason my stocks went decently high. I mean, I got ghosted by every LCS team, which is a bit like to be expected
Wow.
since two teams are pulling out and like the budgets are going down for everyone. Like one of the teams that I was talking to legitimately just said like we have zero budget left, and it was true. Like there
Mm.
wasn't even a slot for like an assistant coach, which was one of the teams that ended up pulling out of the league. So like everything got tanked, and usually when like a scene explodes, like it's gonna become like super protective. Like it's gonna be hard for them to try to expand into people that they don't know. So kind of sucks to get no reply, but like I gotta understand it. So then I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess I'll focus into NACL again. I tried interviewing for Heretics. It was kind of the same thing. Like 150 people interviewed, and there was the final round was only the top four, and they were picking two staff from it. And I made it to number 5 apparently on the list. So like kind of sucks, but it after that interview was the NACL offseason, and instead of like discouraging me, it kind of encouraged me. I'm like, okay, like I'm almost there. Like I'm gonna be I got like kind of revitalized about my own like opinion about myself. And
Mhm.
so I went into NACL once again, fly in TL full ghost. So no options there. Um, but Fly was keeping Rocco anyway, so it's not like there was a chance for me. And then TL took Mash, which is a completely fine pick. So then I went into the orgs that I really didn't know much about. Like I didn't know much about Supernova, like no flame. Like I just like I
Yeah.
said, I kinda came out of nowhere, and I've always focused in my lane. Like I always focused on just LCS and Academy. So I just had no clue what any of the orgs like in NACL were. So I started kind of talking to everyone. And as much as obviously the salary cut exists, like some orgs I could not come to terms with for that. So by process of elimination, I ended up with SN and Mirage and AoE, which
Okay.
were the orgs that were like kind of talking to me. And then those orgs were also kind of all wanting like Faisal, Shochi, Diamond, myself ended up kind of becoming a package deal. I've worked with Faisal before. He was on EGP when I was on EGA. So I knew him from that, and Faisal likes working with me and finds me to be quite a valuable coach. I've worked with Shochi as well. I'm friends with a lot of the people that were on Fear last split, so like Minui Perry, the gang, etc.
Mhm.
Shochi was in there, and then I was kind of helping them a little bit on the side, like they're my friends. So like sometimes we would like sit in Discord and like review some of the matches or whatever, and get some talking points going, etc., etc. Um, Obviously not on a week that I was gonna play against them, but so I was friends with those guys. Shochi knew me from there. I worked with him a little bit, taught him some stuff about macro, etc. So he also really liked me as a coach. And then, well, Diamond, we had just worked together, so that was kind of hand in hand. And all of those players also liked each other, so we were kind of bouncing between those three orgs about like the options. And then, well, Supernova got Kenvi, which is clearly like a very solid jungler, especially like for the NACL level. Like this guy's very good. So that pulled us closer to Supernova as well. And then for
Mhm.
ADC, like everyone was kind of like jungling the same ADC picks, and Array is a completely suitable pick as well. So we ended up being like, okay, Supernova is offering decent pay. They can get the entire package deal. They already signed Kenvi as well. And then like just to be really clear, like Mirage had like the roster rule, so like our package deal could not work out because they have to keep 2 players. So that kind
Right.
of fell through. So it ended up only being like AoE and Supernova. We ended up picking Super. So that's kind of how I ended up there.
Mhm.
And to answer your question, it was not just Diamond and me. It was kind of like Diamond, me plus Shochi, plus a little bit Faisal
That's
as like
all.
a
Mhm.
package.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I like it when teams come together as a package
Yeah,
and your foundation's already kind of there to build the team. And you know what? I will probably ask you more later, ZZ, about your thoughts on the AOE and Mirage roster. But surely we have not
sure.
forgotten about you, and we do want to touch on you as well because, yeah, surely you kind of popped out of nowhere as well. What I meant, like I said, I'm not terribly familiar with either of you. I think I mentioned that before we start recording. But surely I know you from the Arcana roster for Game Changers this year. You were their support.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you find yourself here in Supernova and in Game Changers?
Well, Game Changers, that kind of just happened on a whim. Cause I like you say you don't know me, which is true, but I like technically like I never really had or wanted to have a internet presence in the first place. Like
Okay.
the people who I wanted to know me knew me, I guess. Um, I used to play solo queue, but not really even then. Like even back then when I like climbed high up in the ladder, it was only because I was like playing with friends anyway. Like Riot, please bring back duo so I can actually enjoy this game. Um, Oh yeah, so it was actually Mia. Um, she used to be on EG and TNL, but I knew Mia for like quite a while. Not like as close friends, but I knew of her and we had a lot of mutual friends. But she actually came to me asking if I knew any support players to try out for her Game Changers team. But yeah, she ended up dropping from our team. That's another story. But
Yeah, because
anyway, so
Alice was your AD carry.
pardon?
Alice was the AD carry, right,
Yeah,
for Arcana?
Alice was
Yeah.
my AD carry. Mia was jungling for
Oh, okay.
that.
All right. Because
She
she,
yeah, she
yeah.
was our original
Yeah,
jungler.
Mia's like a 5-role challenger, right?
Yeah, yeah. She's very good at the game, but
Mm.
not really cut out for being a player. But
Fair
um
enough. Yeah.
anyway, so she asked if I knew anybody and I was like, "Oh, like I'd be interested in playing, but I like cuz in 2023 I did see the announcement that they changed how their Game Changers program worked. Like instead of two teams, they were adding a third as well as it was going to be more public, um,
Hmm.
including like the trip to LA. I was like mostly interested to that in that, honestly. But it was a good trip. Like all rides subsidized. Anyway, but yeah, I tried out and got on the team. It was a really good experience for the most part. There was some drama, but all in all, a good experience. Like it was my first time playing on a team, being a part of team. Cause um, yeah, I didn't apply initially anyway to the program because, like I said, like or in 23, I like hadn't played the game for like the first half of the year because like I just didn't like it pretty much. But yeah,
I just want to leave right now. Starts out by saying, "Oh, just got Challenger playing for fun. Get join Game Changers for a trip to LA." Gets that. Oh, you make it
He got
sound so
Platinum
easy.
playing for fun, all right? So we got a little bit of relatability here.
Whoa, whoa!
Platinum and
Platinum was the
Challenger.
second highest rank. Platinum was the second highest rank, bro. What is that?
I
yeah.
don't
When
know.
you said that, you said fun. It was like whatever. I'm like, okay, I guess. If you're gonna talk
I'm
about
trying to not show off or anything. Whatever.
yeah.
Is this why you're not using a cam, Shirley? So that like when you're flexing and raising your eyebrows at us, like when we're saying stuff, it doesn't show.
Yeah, she's hard judging us, but we can't see us.
It's okay.
I know, right? Oh my goodness. So it sounds like you did enjoy the experience for the most part. Would you do Game Changers again?
Um, I think I'm not sure because yeah, a few people have asked me if I would join this year. Well, like
Hmm.
part of the reason why I was even in it was like I kind of like skipped the application process anyway. I don't think because I didn't apply because my application wouldn't have been that competitive anyway. It's like I said, like I don't play solo queue anymore. Oh, I'm planning to play soon when I go back to Canada next week, but we'll see. Because my like motivation for the game like wanes like super high and low. Yeah, I love and hate the game at the same time. Like I'm playing it. I like watching it a lot. But part of me wants to maybe play like depending on how this year's variation of the program goes. But at the same time, like I had such a good experience with my team and like the people that I met that I kind of don't want to ruin that. Do you know what I mean? But we'll see.
I wish I did, but fair enough. I mean, when you get closer to the date, I guess you'll be able to decide
Yeah.
then. So then, how did you get into Supernova then? Was it a friend who
Um.
brought you in, or?
So it was Kobe actually,
Oh, okay.
the league director for SN. He knew Alice as well as one of my other friends, but he added me out of the blue after Game Changers on Discord, and like I was like, "Who the hell is this?" So I had to, I asked like I checked mutual friends and I asked my friends who it was, and they were like, oh, "Okay, like he's not like a huge weirdo," so I added him, and then it went
Just a
from
little bit
there.
of one.
Yeah, just we're all a little weird, aren't we? But
Sure.
anyway, it went from there. Cause yeah, I've always like I like the game a lot, but not very much as a player. Cause yeah, I
Hmm.
haven't played this game since October after the Super Gamer Girl tournament, which I also got dragged into playing because of my Game Changers ADC. But that was also fun experience, I guess. Not the results, because apparently I'm just a perennial loser. But anyway,
Wow.
yeah, I'm more into like so like the managing side of things, like just as a person as well as like for my career. That's what I've always found myself to be more interested in. So I definitely think something like this suits me way more.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about managing and coaching the SN roster then. So, first off, I will say I'm never really clear on what exactly coaches and managers like what their role entails. Because I feel like when I talk to coaches, every coach seems to have like a different scope for their job. So I'm not sure if that's like a normal thing or maybe I'm just asking the wrong questions. And likewise for managers too. Like I've seen managers like basically handle an entire team, do almost like coach role to like just being somebody who just books scrims. So what's the SN style like? What do both of you, kind of what are your roles within the team here?
Visit, you
Sure.
go first.
Yeah, I'll go first. Well, for coaching, yeah, like you said, it is a different scope because I mean, there's so many things that you can contribute like as a coach to a team.
Hmm.
So it kind of depends on your own skill set, right? For me, being an ex-player and I've been high elo for a long time, I have like I've accumulated game knowledge over the years. I have experience working with strong players in my past rosters, right? So like my game knowledge and my strategy and my drafting, I feel like are my strong suit. So
Hmm.
I I want to bring in like kind of a sixth voice to the team, where I can see the game from the outside. You know, when you're playing, you have your own POV. You don't necessarily see everything that's going on within a game, so maybe like identifying the problems is like a bit difficult there. So for me, it's like really identifying the key moments in the game throughout like the whole map. Like, oh, is like, are we recalling off tempo? Are we like playing to the wrong lane? Like, did we like brief like some interaction somewhere in a lane and got chunked for no reason, etc. Right?
Hmm.
So that's like kind of a big part of it. And it's also like coaching is also still like talking to your players one on one, getting their own feelings on what's going on inside the games, how they feel like playing with their teammates, what kind of styles they want to play towards. So you're always going to be a bit of a mediator, and you're always going to kind of be a bit of a conflict solver. Like it's kind of your job to understand your players' personalities, what frustrates them, and like how you can talk to everyone to try to alleviate those frustrations and make them really like gel together. My biggest mistake when I went to EGA, which was my first, like my rookie split,
Hmm.
was to just like be straight to business and only focus about like gameplay, only focus about drafting, only focus about strategy. Like everyone kind of wishes that that's what the job really was. Like we just
Yeah.
wish we could just focus on league, but at the end of the day, like managing the personality is also a huge part of it. So now, I've taken a bit of a step back and I'm really like 50-50 on like bringing in my input to the drafts and to the games and also facilitating discussion and mediating discussions between players. I would say that's kind of the big gist of the job.
Okay, so would you say that it's more like what happens off stage, like in practices and setting things up, and then on stage you take more of a step back, like you're saying there?
Um, well, on stage or at least match days, I really
Yeah.
try not to bring, I try not to be an extra stressor because I feel
Hmm.
like if you show up and you like start freaking them out about like what you messed up in scrims or like you start like freaking them out about like random stuff, I don't know, like on match day it's not really the place for it. Like you want your players to be like
Right.
focused and unbothered, so it's important to have like the critical feedback of like, oh, you guys, like we're playing the fights too quick or whatever is going on, right? Like but you really don't want to put on too much and you don't really want to bring in like new knowledge because like they're already nervous about their matches. Like if you bring in new knowledge or like twists to your strategies, like between games or just before the games, like that's probably not gonna go too well.
Okay.
But scrims are for that. Yeah, scrims like that's when you're like no
Hmm.
mercy. And then this is where like yeah, this is where like you just have to be real. Like okay, like someone like really messed up this game, like permanently like recalling at the wrong times or like permanently like playing too far up, something like that. Uh,
Okay.
or if we're just playing the comp like completely wrong, like
Hmm.
you're gonna come in like no mercy. But yeah, so match day, like you said, yeah, it's a bit more like from the like you're taking a little bit of a step back, but the match day will typically reflect what you've been preparing during your scrims. I would say that our match days this week were not really reflective of how we're playing during scrims. I might just chalk it up to like it's the first week, everyone's a bit nervous, etc. I'm not gonna make excuses or anything, but
Fair enough. Yeah, just was asked about that
I
Akshan pick for
ideally your
Shoji too.
match, yeah, ideally your match represents what you've been working on in your script.
Okay, so definitely Akshan being worked on. Got it. That's something that gets brought up
I
in scrims
mean,
a lot.
I'm not leaking any scrims here. No worries. I cannot.
Agreed. I was kind of surprised at our first match, considering I feel like we had a pretty bad week going into matches,
Yeah, the
personally.
scrim week was a bit complicated. There's a lot of cancels and a lot of random issues like outside of
Yeah,
the game itself. So we had like
Hmm.
a lot less practice, and like some of the practice was like teams
not
that
great.
we picked up that were like, not that the teams are okay, well, like lower quality teams in that sense, because like blocks get canceled or something, and you have to find someone, right? But everyone else is scrimming, so like you just pick up like whatever's there.
Hmm.
So yeah, and then we had like internet issues and a lot of like issues outside the game, so it got kind of like annoying. But
For
I
sure.
mean, from my own experience, like I've had weeks and scrims like on other teams where like I don't know, you go like 7-18 and you're in your scrim week, but then like you show up on stage and you just stomp everyone.
Yeah.
Um, I think so. I talked to people from other teams, right? So wild card this week, they won both their matches, I believe.
Yeah.
And
Bro.
they told me that they went 1-14 in scrims that week. So like like
Oh, wow.
it is what it is. Like scrims and matches are like they're not completely fake, but like they're mostly fake. Like I've had weeks where we go like 18-2, and then we just like I don't know, like grow some sort of like brain damage on stage and like completely like trash. And then I've had scrims where like everyone's yelling at each other. We don't know which comps are working. Like there's like huge issues, and then somehow like everyone gels together on stage and like stomps. Like it's just unexplainable.
Scrimbuck's fake. Got it. Yeah. I hear that from a lot of people that scrims are just practice plays. Fair enough. Yeah. So Shirley, what about your role on the team? Because team manager, I feel like is such a nebulous term.
Um, well, okay, I'm like generally just a nosy person, so I like to know about everything that's going on. In terms of what you asked before, like how much involvement I have,
Mhm.
say a lot. Like I tried to watch pretty much all the scrims, but that's just because I like watching League in general. Like I try to watch all the games from all the major regions. I've like I mentioned before, the first League like event that I've ever watched was Season 2 Worlds, and like I've been following the pro scene ever since then. But I even had one of my friends ask that, or they said that they thought it was nice that I was so involved with the team because usually from their experience, like mostly the team managers are like just like a booking slave
Yeah.
and not that involved. But it's been fun.
Okay. Yeah. Does it help that like do you find that being high elo helps with being a team manager, or is it just like peripheral to your enjoyment of just being a team manager?
No, because like
Okay.
that was a long time ago anyway. And so like okay, this is like the revelation that I came to when I like reached high elo. Like wow, this is when I hit challenger. Like wow, this is what challenger is. Like this is kind of disappointing. But okay, like it was nice being able to play with the pros. Like that was part of my motivation was playing because like playing with like actual people who are good at the game versus like everyone else on the ladder. It's like night and day. Like the games are just it's not even the same game. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
completely agree. NA Challenger Soki is so boosted, but it is what it is. But
yeah.
it is indeed not the same game. I can vouch for Shirley watching a lot of games though. She's permanently on Discords and she's always watching everything. So if I'm ever watching like any sort of like LPL, LCK, or LCS, I can just add Shirley and like she'll just
I
hop in
mean,
and
I've
be like,
been
It should
like
show up.
my sleep schedule's been decent or normal. Let me say in the past few weeks, so I haven't been watching that many games. But if my insomnia ever comes back, yeah, I'm watching all the games.
Actually, that raises a question about Champs Queue. So, do y'all think Champs Queue is effective, or like, do you like the how the Champs Queue has been working out? Because you
well, it
guys are saying
depends
that thing with pros,
what do
right?
you mean by effective? Like effective for what?
Like better than solo queue.
Oh yeah, I mean yes, it's way better for sure. Effective as in like it's a magical hyperbolic time chamber that you like go in there and because you have comms with other people like you become like a next faker, like no. But it's definitely like you're gonna first of all the one of the biggest reasons why it's better than solo queue is like the drafts. Like you're not gonna okay, let me open up my OPGG from my games today. I played the K games now because yeah, solo queue is disgusting. But let's look at some of the drafts, like I don't think that in a competitive game I'm gonna end up with like Graves Aurelian Soul mid jungle or like I don't know, like Annie Lilia, like enemy stacks MR, they don't do anything. Like one game the enemy team has like singed mid Viego, like stuff like that. You know, like these things like you play against, and then like it just doesn't really give you anything. Like
Oh, hold up, Singe mid. Jojo's done that. Jojo
yeah,
Fin's
I mean
done that.
singed mid is playable for sure, for sure. What did he play it into? That's the question. He's
And didn't
singed,
Insanity just blind Scion mid
yeah,
yesterday?
yeah. I mean that kind of. I mean, Insanity will pick crazy stuff and he will perform well. Like even his Zac mid, you know, he picked his Zac.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like you just see stuff in solo queue that doesn't really make too much sense, and like it's nice to kind of like play against random stuff because you can have some sort of idea of what those champs can do. But like every single game, like I don't know, like I'm playing Maokai Hui bot lane versus Draven Renata. Like I should die 52 times and be unable to lane, but then like because it's NA Draven Renata, like we kill them 4 times. Like that's not gonna happen. Like you will have people, and some people play weird stuff in CQ as well. So then
Mhm.
then it begs the question of like who should be eligible to play it. Um, but like and it's okay to to pick off meta champs, but just in general, like if you play 20 CQ games or 20 solo queue games, like there's a much higher chance that in your 20 CQ games you'll have a good sample of like decently meta drafts that make sense, and like you're gonna get to work on actual matchups that you're probably gonna play on stage rather than playing versus your fourth like Sona bot lane of the day or like Teemo top of the day or something.
Fair enough. Yeah, so I guess it's a step in the right direction. Probably still
Yeah,
not as effective as we'd like, but players have to play, right? I think that's the
well,
biggest
it's
thing.
better than solo queue, therefore you should put your time into it
Yeah,
because it's just strictly better than solo.
fair enough. Okay, let's get into the meat of things. Supernova, y'all just played your first matches this last weekend, when 1-1, 3 wins, 2 losses.
Yeah,
Interestingly, you guys are the first team to get the double hitter weekend, and on a shorter weekend too. Like I think starting next week, it's at least 6 games each
Yes.
weekend. So,
Yeah.
um,
They're playing 2 on Friday.
right, yeah. So every team will start having to play 2 games eventually on some weekend, but y'all the first one. So I'd like your thoughts on having a double hitter. Is it easier on y'all to prepare or harder to prepare? Like how
I
do you
mean,
like it compared to what everybody else had to do?
I'm kind of used to having like multiple matches in the week. That was typically the case before.
Mhm.
So I don't really think it's like much different. If anything, it's nice to get more matches early because like you get the stage
Okay.
nerves out of the way, or you get to like expose your actual problems out of the way. Like having a sample size of match day matches is quite good. Like you'll see like, oh, okay, these picks are working in scrims because people are playing more aggressive, or like we're allowed to do things that we shouldn't be, and now like on stage like it's not looking good, you know. So being able to have a larger sample size early on in the season to me is an advantage. Like maybe it makes it quote unquote like harder to win or
Mhm.
whatever. Like I don't know what like cope I could come up with, but I like having more matches early. TLDR, we get to see actual games more, like where everyone is full try hard, and then we get to see like more real results than the scrim games.
Okay, yeah, because it was also on the new patch, right? 14.2.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I guess y'all didn't even have to practice or prep at all for 14.1b. You just rolled right into 14.2.
yeah. That
Beneficial.
was kind of annoying though, not gonna lie,
Oh,
because I mean, obviously we have to play on 14.1b, like everyone else is scrimming it, right? Like no one else
right.
can,
Okay.
like, so we have to play on it, and there's like the double support item stuff. So
Yeah.
like it's not like like it's just like we knew it was getting nerfed and it was getting full gutted. So like I'm not picking like Senna Seraphine or whatever. I mean, some people are still picking it without the double support item thing, which is fine. But it's just annoying when like every game we're playing, like if I don't want to play against it, I just have to use all my scrim bands on it, and then like and then I have to play against Rumble every game or something like that. So it was just a little annoying that like because usually the patches are like not that big of a difference, but the fact that
Hmm.
like it's a huge prevalent strategy and like there's so many bot pairings that are enabled because of solely the double support item thing made it a bit annoying. But at the end of the day, like most of what you're getting out of scrims is like the gist of the game itself, like playing as a team, synchronizing your tempo, knowing how to play the map, knowing how to go like from lane to jungle, get vision, prepare for an objective, etc.
Yeah, I guess
So
the fundamentals and the macro
the
doesn't
fundamentals are
change that
still
much.
there. It's just playing against strategies that are impossible on the patch that you will be playing matches on is just a little bit. I don't have any other word than annoying for it.
Yeah. Uh, 100%. And the first two matches you all played against Lit Esports and
Yeah.
Maryville. So Lit Esports, that was swift, strong showing from y'all 2-0. Kind of smashed. I know Supernova and Lit have a bit of a rivalry going on as far as the orgs are concerned.
Yeah.
Do y'all feel it at all? Like the players,
No.
you guys as coaches? No.
No. This is. I mean, I don't. I don't know if Shirley does.
I mean, I only knew about it like after the fact that apparently Lit owner has beef with us, Supernova, and like they ranked us last on their tier list, like intentionally last. And then I know we have beef with some of their socials or like some of the people on their like staff and stuff, but I personally don't have any beef. I'm friends with people on Lit, so yeah.
So is it? Do we know? Is it just because they? And I mean, I think this predates all of us here as far as being
They
in
relegated us, right?
Supernova stuff, but they have a lot of ex Supernova folks, right?
Yep,
Yep.
some
Uh,
gold.
yeah, between like Elijah, Dragoon, Kisno, all those guys.
And Delphi, who's on their socials team, was
Mm.
Oh
with
yeah.
us on the
Okay.
and Lit relegated us last split, I think.
Yes.
Like that's
Oh,
also
true.
why.
I forgot about that. That's true.
Yeah, they showed it on the stream on the LCS Challengers. They showed
Yeah.
specifically the match which got Supernova relegated. So yeah, it was like a big deal in the community. You know, when people are talking about it, it was a thing on the show, of course, because it's a good storyline. But I guess you guys didn't feel a thing and just went into it. So like,
Yeah, I
was it?
mean, we did what we had to do, but player side, like, I mean, the owners and like made it very clear. Like, they even came into the Discord at some point in the during the scrim week, and so like, yo, guys, like, it looks like scrims are going well, whatever. Like, just to let you know, like, you really gotta beat Lit. Like, we hate those guys or something. I'm like, okay,
We
like,
won the
sure, like,
lore matchup.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we did what we had to do. I mean, I don't think game one was the cleanest, but it's like legit our first stage game, so whatever, not the end of the world. Game two was more of a breeze. To be honest,
Mhm.
that second game was kind of a complete joke. Like, I don't understand what they were planning in their draft, but we kind of got like given Exodia for fun. So if we lost that game, I would have been really confused just from draft. I mean, game one draft was also quite winning.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, second
I
game
actually
did
really
like
like
it
the game one
almost
draft.
feels like second game didn't even feel that good to win. To be honest, we're just like, oh, okay, well, we kind of rolled over. But the first game more competitive. Um,
Shots fired.
yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm just gonna flame myself. Like, or like, I thought that our game three draft versus MU
Maryville.
was like as winning as that game two draft, but it ended up not working out. So that's okay. Not because you have a
Mhm.
better draft that the game their Nexus automatically blows up. Like, yeah, you still have the
Yeah.
game to play out.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, let's talk about the Maryville Supernova
Yeah.
game because I think Lit y'all expected to beat them. What are y'all's thoughts on Maryville? Because they changed their roster right pretty much at the end of the window when Niles turned out to be eligible because he's doing their master's program
Yeah.
in Maryville. So, first of all, did that catch you off guard? The fact that UG Spyrax was suddenly the mid jungle for this team? Niles
Well,
was suddenly back then?
UG Sparks are clearly like a strong mid jungle, especially for
Mhm.
like NACL level. Like, they've
Yeah.
proven it. So we work like, I mean, if you look at our most of our like bans were like centered around like mid jungle as well. We're attacking it. Niles
Mhm.
we're aware of. Like, we know who their players are clearly. But we were expecting like their bot lane to be like kind of the weak point, and then Niles, like, we know his pool, we know the champs that are gonna come out. Faisal is comfortable playing against it, so no issues there. But yeah, most of the focus was on mid jungle. Turns out that their bot lane like showed up and picked like the meta bot lanes, and like they did well in their early laning, etc. So that did surprise a little bit. Um, but yeah, I mean, I was placing that team more in the lower half. I still do. I think we played really
Okay.
poorly, and if we show up in like our proper form, it will not be the same story. But I can't take it away from them. Like, they showed up. They had good draft ideas. Like, I liked their Aatrox Jax 4-5. It kind of like took both champs away, and like it threw a curveball. Like, we had to react to it, which
Mhm.
always kind of like is a good sign for like their team. Like, they managed to throw curveballs in drafts. They managed to like make good comps. They managed to like play everything that's meta. So I do have to put some respect on their name, no matter what. But yeah, I still do believe that it is one of the weaker teams in the league, even though they did show up in a good weekend. But I have to, like, if they beat us again next time, like, it is what it is. But I will just say I don't think our form was like anywhere near what it really should be. So I'll make sure that the next time we do have to play against them, it's not the same story.
Fair enough. And do you think the problem with Supernova will kind of just like a small like off form sort of issue? Like it's not something that would normally be an issue, or do you think it's something
Well,
that
yeah, like I said, like usually you want your scrims to like your matches to reflect your scrims, and they really
Mhm.
didn't. Like uh I mean, players were clearly like a bit nervous. Once again, I'm gonna chalk it up to being the first weekend and getting the stage nerves out of the way. But
Yeah.
yeah, like comms were like different than usual, like a lot more tense, a lot more stressed. We were like a bit more afraid, so we kind of just have to mostly like attack stage the same way we would attack a scrim. Not like full baboon mode, right? Like some scrims are like game 5 scrims are like 80 kills in like 30 minutes type thing. Like but there's a lot of
Please do
aggression
that.
that's
It'd be
missing,
so
and there's a
fun.
lot of like risk taking that is necessary to win league games that was kind of missing as well. And it's not
Mhm.
that my players are unable to do it. Clearly, like we've demonstrated being able to do it many, many times in scrims already.
Yeah.
Just have to get rid of that stage demon.
Yeah, I'd say you
Yep.
even demonstrated on Saturday. So definitely that's true. I am surprised that you still think Maryville is a lower end team. And I actually love to get your thoughts on the teams in general if you're putting Maryville on the lower end. But Shirley, do you agree with that? Do you think Maryville a lower end team?
I mean, isn't that kind of the general consensus? I think.
It was
Well,
before, but then they won 2 series, and
yeah,
now,
I was gonna
yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
No, I think we have to give them credit where credit's due, right? Like they showed up and right now undefeated. I think because like their roster, well, bot lane's new, but a lot of them have been around the scene and playing for a while, so it's not
Yeah.
like it's a completely like new developmental roster.
I do
Um,
think the bot lane's impressed me though. I think they've looked a lot better this split than they did last split. Zyko especially, I think, has looked really, really good. His Renata games have been pretty impressive to me, at least for what we got to see so far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. I'll say the two biggest surprises were their bot lane and their draft.
Mm.
Yeah. So okay, so it sounds like Maryville surprised you guys a little bit in terms of your personal power rankings.
Yeah,
Given the results we've seen so far, are there any other teams that surprised you? Because I know
wild
Wildcard
card.
surprised a lot of
yeah,
people.
wild
Yep,
card
there
for
we go.
sure.
Yeah. Would
Mirage
love to
Alliance.
start with wildcard actually, just because ZZ, I know
Sure, yeah,
you played with Toasty as your top laner in ACL
Yeah,
in the preseason for a little bit, so you're already a little bit familiar with him. And then yeah, how about the whole wildcard roster, right? This SLU team coming out and 4-0 already.
well, Toasty is Toasty's on
that's
fear
fear.
currently. So
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
trolling, dude.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Obviously, yeah, obviously Toasty's on fear. I do also want to talk about fear, but yeah, let's get on to wildcard. I'm absolutely griefing it though.
Yeah, I mean, wild card. I mean, I don't know too much. I mean, I know their players like by name. But
Mhm,
it's not like like I said, I usually follow my own league. So them coming, like they're more like a collegiate team, right? So it's not like I watch too much of CLO. So in that sense, like I don't have too much experience with them as a unit, especially like Doxa support and stuff like that. Like I
mhm,
usually would see Doxa in mid. So I don't have too much of a read. I mean, I wasn't too surprised that they were like gonna take out like a Mirage. Like I would say like those two teams are like somewhat around what I would expect. Like I would expect both teams to be able to win a series like that. I was surprised that they took out TL, right? That was
yeah,
the
TLC
yeah.
on the day one.
So yeah, so that was quite surprising. I would say. Oh, everyone was kind of surprised. Like we were watching the matches and like, oh wow, this is actually happening.
Yeah,
Because like TL definitely has the foundation to be one of the stronger teams. Wouldn't say like the strongest or contending for it, but I think like clearly like a above average team.
okay,
So that was kind of the bigger surprise for me there. But the second series, like I could see it going both ways. Like I wouldn't be really surprised with any result from a series like that, unless it was like crazy clean, like 23-minute stomps, like just like almost perfect games, and then you'd be like, okay, something's going on here. But it was the games were a bit messy. They were more extended. There were like throws, like later game team fights, etc. So in that sense, kind of par for the course, in my opinion.
Yep. Do you buy into? I feel like the narrative is kind of rolling up that they're putting a lot of it on Winnie. Like he's kind of thought of as this big shot caller who's kind of leading them to a lot of success. But despite my disrespect to him earlier, I do think Dark Wings has been pretty good. Over the last couple of splits, especially like even on his time on AOE, I feel like when he's been able to get his champions, he's been uh solidly towards the top half of the league. How do you feel like a lot of the responsibility for this kind of upsurge from wildcard falls?
I mean, it's hard to tell. Like, I'm not in their scrims, right? So I don't know how their comms sound like, but I can confirm that Winnie is a very vocal player. I did interact with him a little bit in like some tryouts. Believe it was the EG scouting combine when I was
Mhm.
also like being scouted as a coach.
Mhm.
And he does take a lot of space in comms, and he does like try to like really steer the ship. So I wouldn't be surprised if like it's still the same. Like I would be, I would actually be surprised if he became not vocal. So he's probably still kind of the shot caller, but they do have Deos working with them as well, which is a friend of mine and a coach which I have not directly worked with before, but we do talk to each other about coaching about the game like a lot. So I would say I would give him some credit as well. Like he's really good. Like his number one thing is just like getting any team's vibes up. Like he will
Yep.
get he's the glue that will like get everyone to stick together, you know. And he's a hard worker in terms of like presenting information and in terms of like keeping everything structured. So if you are gonna have a coach that's good for like giving you a proper practice schedule throughout your week and making sure that you're working on the right things, like it is Deos. So I'm gonna give him some credit as well. In terms of like the other players, I mean, once again, I can't say too much because I don't really have the information. Like I would just be hard yapping if I was to try to like
That's what we're
theorize
here to
like
do, man.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
a
but
podcast.
I mean,
No, I
it
get
would
it
be
though.
it'd be tough to like believe my own self. You know, I like legit just be making shit up at this point. So, um, yeah,
Credibility on
I
a
mean,
podcast. Who'd have thought?
TLDR, pretty sure Winnie is still quite vocal player, and I would not be surprised if he's the captain of the ship, like in game. And so he's probably doing a really good job at that. And then yeah, Deos is a solid coach. So I mean, if you have a good shot caller and a good coach, like your team will have good direction.
Yeah. Did you actually happen to catch the interview after their win over uh with the MA or Mirage
No, I did
Alliance?
not see.
I had to
I did
speed
not
run
watch
these
the
games
interview.
today. I
What
missed that too.
happened?
Was
What happened in the interview?
so Aaron was crediting Deus as like the best coach he's worked with, and was like, no shade to the other coaches,
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, Deus
just
is
past
solid.
coaches.
Deus is
Yeah,
solid. Like, I mean, he has NACL experience, like academy experience. He has LCS experience as well with Immortals. Like, even though that team did not go as well, like experiencing like an LCS stage and like higher stakes competition, like no matter what, that's gonna help you improve. Like, if you
He
can't
was
take,
helping Team
yeah,
Worlds as well during Worlds.
yeah,
oh
that
yeah,
as well. But if something like having an LCS split doesn't help you do some introspection and improvement for your next step, then you're doing something wrong. Deus is for sure a good.
Well, talking about other teams that are sitting around towards the bottom of the table, then do you want to talk about Mirage Alliance a little bit as well?
Yeah,
Coming in at a
sure.
1-4 record so far. This is like the big veteran team around the league. I think probably the highest average years played across the board. I think that's probably a
Yeah,
pretty safe bet.
they have a
They
lorem.
seem to be struggling a little bit out of the gate. I think a lot of people are taking some victory laps because of the roster changes, and because even prior to that, I think a lot of people were pretty low on this squad. What
yeah.
was your kind of opinion on them coming in, and do you think they've lived up to it or down to it, or do you think
Well,
that are you surprised by the results so
n-
far?
not necessarily. I mean, Mirage was maybe gonna be our home as well, but it ended up not working out. Like I was, they really wanted me as well. Like I did their scouting combine, and then the players felt like I was the best coach in their scouting combine, so their players were mostly vouching for me as well. And I was lining up to become that coach until the whole like Diamond Me Shochi package deal and then the Supernova option like showed up. When that option showed up, like to me at that point it was like, well, if you can take our package deal, I'll stick with you. But if you can't, then you can't. And then unfortunately, with the 2 out of 7 roster rule that they had to follow, they could not. So, but I do know most of the players on that team quite well. I mean, because I did like run scrims with them for a few weeks, and I did do the scouting combine, like interacting with mostly like Dardoch through and RJS from like that roster. But I know Prismo as well from Academy. Like we know each other. I wouldn't say we're like close friends, but like we are friends. And then Alarim, I've fun fact, I've known Alarim for 10 years. Because he was
Probably
also high
played
elo in
against him.
yeah. Well, we were yeah, and we were he was also high elo in season 3. And back then, like you could duo, we duoed some games. Like I remember,
Hey.
he was a Wukong main at the time. And then one game we ended up on the same team in solo queue, and that's when like lobbies were not Gromp and Scuttle Crab and Krug. Like you could know who you're playing with.
That's when
Um,
you had to call your role.
and yeah, you would get ranked like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You couldn't swap, but and you would get ranked by MMR. So like the highest MMR player had first pick, and you had to call roles. So you had to say like I prefer mid, I prefer top, or whatever, and then you had to like figure it out with your team like in the lobby chat before it started. So yeah, anyways, I played one game with Alarin, which I'll always forget. We ended up bot lane, and we played Fizz Wukong bot lane as a combo. And our jungle was Azingi, who was like a dude who played 4,000 games a year, and he mostly played Karthus and Malphite jungle. So we had Fizz, Wukong, Malphite jungle, and then like the moment we got to level 6, we just killed their bot lane like 52 times under their tower, just pressing R. And that was a pretty sick game. So just to say, like I've known this guy for a while, and we've like been playing the game for a while together. I will say though, like as strong as he is at his comfort, like he is a bit limited now, and to being more of like a tank player. And he's a good tank player, and he can play like all of those champs. He does play some like more wonky bruisers, like he'll whip out the Kled or the Pantheon once in a while. But in a meta, in the top meta, that is what it is right now. That's definitely hurting him. Like top meta being like Sante is good for him, but top meta being like Rumble, Aatrox, Jax, Gwen, like it. Those champions love playing against his pool, and he also doesn't really play them that much. So I would say like that's definitely like a like that hurts quite a bit, especially top champs are looking really OP this patch as well. So that's probably like one of their bigger issues. And then also they did have like a bit of a rough startup in the off season, like once again not knowing what the roster was going to be for a long time and having to shuffle around players and shuffle around rosters and staff. And then the scooped incident, which might have partly been our fault. It
Oh.
happened like an hour after scrimming us, but I mean clearly like clearly there was a build up. Like there's no way that like the team is like
What did you do?
all well, I don't know. They just got rolled in scrims. Like it is what it is. But like there must have been a build up. Like there's no way like everyone's happy together and then you have one bad scrim and then he's kicked, right? So like surely there was like some frustrations going on and some build up, and then we were like kind of like their breaking point. Like I think it probably didn't even have to be us. Like if they got stomped in scrims by anyone that day, that was probably like the limit, you know. But it was just funny that like we kind of roll them in scrims and then we just like see an hour later on Twitter that they kicked their ADC. So yeah, all that to say, I wasn't too surprised that they had a rough start because their off season was so messy and their roster shuffled a lot, their staff shuffled a lot, and the meta is really not too favorable for like one of their players at the very least right now. So I mean, mix that all that together, like you would expect a rough start.
So you're expecting them to improve rapidly, or like you
Oh,
think
I
they're
mean, I don't
probably
know
going
about
to
that.
get
Like
it
that,
going?
like I don't know. I don't know if I was wording it in a way that like they're gonna have a rough start and then become first place, you know. But I was expecting it to be shaky. I mean, I
Mhm.
if they're able to go through all of that, stabilize this new iteration of the roster, and hopefully, like I don't know, top lane gets shifted with patches or something. Um, then I could see them be more of a contender for like a higher spot in the league. But as it stands right now, it seems difficult.
Okay, so probably lower
We
end as
actually
well.
play them next week.
Yeah, I mean, now that I say that, you know, like we
Yeah,
gotta we gotta back
I
it
was
up.
just gonna say
We gotta
Sunday.
back it up, especially after our showing yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's as good a spot as any. Do you want to talk? You guys want to talk a little bit about week number 3? Some teams we're looking forward to seeing. Some
Oh yeah, I guess that
thoughts
is week
on
3.
matchups coming on up.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's week 2 in my head because we didn't play the first week, which that was also kind of weird. Like we started scrims because I'm like, oh, the league's starting on January 20. Let's start scrims 2 weeks before, like January 5 or something. And we're like, okay. And we're like, oh, we actually don't play until January 27, which as much as like you're not gonna burn out in 3 weeks, it does get boring to not have like any high stakes game, like just jamming scrims for 21 days in a row. So I am pretty happy that we're in the season, even though we start a bit later than other people. Yeah. So Week 3, I mean, let me open the schedule so I don't remember the entire thing by heart.
I can
But
send them.
Okay.
no, I got you.
That's fine. That's what you've got the team manager for, right?
Yeah,
Shirley
our
knows all
Discord
by
is
heart,
so well
right?
organized thanks to Shirley that I already have the schedule open. Shirley is quite the Smurf manager. Like the Discord is super clean, and she's over every single thing that's happening. So except one time where she forgot to tell me that scrims were canceled, but it is what it is.
Dude, uh,
Yeah,
that was
Make
fucked
Shirley's
up.
job
No, I
here or
woke up
anything, but it's in
I was
podcast chat.
I was fucked
Uh,
up.
it's okay. It happens.
It's not okay. It's not okay.
You're allowed to fuck up one time, and then after that, it's
Yeah, and then I don't get any more chances.
it's okay.
Anyway.
Shirley's on break. She's guest on a podcast right now. It's in podcast chat.
yeah. Anyways, okay, PLDSG for sure interesting. MA is playing twice. Okay, so we're playing them the
Yep.
second time. MA lit, wonderful. I mean that match is like once again. I just said that those two
Someone's
teams
gonna
were to
win.
me. Well, yeah, someone's gonna
Yeah, that's
win. I mean usually those matchups are banger games, so
okay.
tune in for sure.
Actually, who do you think's gonna win that one? Both your
Let's
opinions.
say 'cause I know people on lit.
Oh, you're gonna say lit because you know
Okay.
people on lit. Well, I know people on
Sure.
both teams, so what do I say?
I don't know, flip a coin.
Lit are your
Um,
rivals. Aren't you supposed to say Mirage?
I mean, he
Yeah,
just
we're
trash
gonna
talked
say
Mirage, so
Mirage.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. We're gonna say Mirage because it makes it more interesting if we play them after they just win. They just won. We're gonna say Mirage. Fear Fly. I mean, Fly is looking pretty sharp.
Yep.
We've been scrimming both of those teams a good amount, and Fly is definitely like the overdog in this matchup. I mean, they're
Mhm.
technically the overdog in like almost every matchup with how they showed up. But Fear does have like smurfing potential. So who knows? You know, Fear gets a good draft in and gets like a good early game going. Like maybe they're able to take one. But I'd be surprised
This
if
is where
they
I can
were.
force the Toasty topic. Thoughts on
Yeah,
thoughts on
force
Toasty is well, you played with him as a top laner, but I'm sure you got to
Well,
know
I
him as
have
a
more
player.
history with him than you think. So
You keep
Oh.
I'm
on
gonna
trying to
say
fight him.
I what?
You keep on trying to fight him in Discord chat.
Yeah, I give him a rough time. I always give him a rough time. I don't want him to be like an idiot. Like sometimes he's being an idiot, and I'm just gonna give him a rough time. So I've known
In what
Toasty for
sense is
He's
he
a
being an
kid.
idiot?
he just says stupid stuff. Like it is what it is. And
Ah,
then
okay.
I've known Toasty. Okay, Shirley doesn't know. I've known Toasty for 3 years, and like
Okay.
he was a player. Okay, so Cloud9 Training Grounds starts like I don't remember which year, 2020, 2021, whatever.
Mhm.
And then basically the first run was like it's after, as I said, like Vienna plugged me. I took an interview, came in, etc. The first run was like kind of just a test run. And then they had like 5 coaches, me included, and then I had 3 teams. The highest elo team was mine, and Toasty was on that team, but he was like I don't know, Diamond 3 or Diamond 2 mid laner at the time.
Wow.
And then like didn't really play like too many meta champs, or like didn't really have any direction in his gameplay at all. So he was like really fresh, and like I don't know, like to me it was just a bad solo queue player. Um, and then so I did team coaching for that team for 8 weeks. So we worked together for 8 weeks at about 10 hours a week. It was quite a lot of time. And then I the players were each getting 5 hours individual throughout those 8 weeks as well. So I worked with Toasty for a total of, I mean, 80 hours with the team and 5 hours with him. You know, almost like 100 hours at the time. And then shortly, I'm not gonna say like it's all thanks to me, blah, blah, blah. Like obviously there's a lot of credit that goes to him for putting in the work and actually applying the feedback, right? But that year he's D3, the next year he's like GM, and the year after he's challenger, like 1200 LP or something. So obviously he got a lot out of interacting with me, and I kept in touch. I've been keeping in touch with a lot of the players that I worked with Cloud9 Training Grounds. I'm just, I don't know, I'm just like that, I guess. Like when I work with a player for an extended period of time, and like I want them to keep updating me with like how their career is going or how their life is going, etc. So Toasty and I have been in touch for like the last 3 years. Um, I've done a lot of solo coaching with him, and then once he started joining like lower tier teams, he still says that he's like scared of bringing VODs to me, because as much as like he gets good info out of it, like he's scared that I'm gonna be like disappointed, or I'm gonna flame him or something or whatever. So, and he says like it is stupid and it is his fault, but it is what it is. So yeah, I've been working with that kid for a while. He's definitely has improved a ton, and he's hungry for it. He will work on everything. He will work on his comms. He will work on every single champ. He will play whatever without complaining. Like at the time, I was trying to work on his fundamentals, so I just made him a Galio player, and he went up like 600 LP with Galio because like I was just showing him like, okay, one shot your wave, look at the map, go where you think there's gonna be action. So just like the push and move mindset. So he developed that through Galio, and then I made him develop like or told him to develop like perma fighting with Silas, and he loved Silas as well. And then to develop more like high APM mechanics with Yone and Akali. And so he kept doing that, kept piling it on, and now I think he's a pretty strong player. I mean, I'm gonna be very honest here. He's playing against Quad. That
Yeah.
Quad guy is insane. So as much as I love my boy Toasty, and I would love for him to like stomp Quad. If I had to put my money on it, I would I would put it on Quad this time. But give Toasty like more stage experience playing against like stronger teams. And I mean I think that guy can go. I mean he can go all the way if he keeps putting the hard work. Also, although I will say I will flame his laziness for VOD watching. This guy is unable. Like he has such hard ADHD, he can't just sit there for an hour and watch like LCK Pro views. You know, like he just can't.
And there's the
So
Discord chat.
and that's a huge issue. Um, because and like I'll just take another example. Like on EG, I mean, with the academy teams back then, you would be in person. Now we're remote. But like, so you have access to the LCS team. Jojo is like completely different. So Jojo watches like 3 hours of VODs every single day, like after scrims. Like I would every time I would walk by, he's never like playing the game until later in the night. Like after scrims, he will like probably like just chill out for like an hour, like play like whatever, like ping pong or whatever, eat some Chick-fil-A, and then he's just gonna load up like you have access to ruffle files, the replay files when you're on a pro team for every region, and he's just gonna like open up like every LCK like higher tier team like mid lane, and he's just gonna look at the first 10 minutes, study the laning phase, go next, go next, go next, and he's gonna do like 15 of those in a row, every single day.
Wow.
So that's what I'm trying to drill into some other players as well. Right now, my players are on like LPL and LCK VOD watching duty. Like Shochi, that's not something that he did much of before, but now he's already
Mhm.
doing it. Faisal, same thing. Diamond watches a ton of VODs all the time, so the same thing. Like, are my players on that duty? I think it's super important to do. Uh, so, as I said, I'm a big yapper. To wrap up my point, I think Toasty has shown, like over the last few years, a lot of improvement on all aspects of his game, and I think he can keep showing it. But he does have to like put in the right amount of work and keep putting it. Um, but as of right now, I'm gonna have to say Quad is the better player. So hopefully they can get a good surprise. And I would not be too surprised if they manage to steal one game. But
Okay.
I mean, if they manage to get 2 games, like I'm gonna freak out a little bit. That'd be pretty crazy.
They need a ban cast.
Yeah, ban
Don't let them.
Cassio and
Don't play them.
Yeah.
don't blind Tristana into quad. You will just go down 5 levels. Yep.
Even with the Casio
So
ban.
no. Like ban Cassio if you're gonna pick Trist into him. But it's so funny. Like we're scrimming them. I'm not gonna leak the picks or anything, right? But like quad is gonna like we like blind pick some mid laner and then quad counter picks it, and then he just like types at the beginning of the game like, Shochi, you are not Chovy. You can't blind pick this. That is so funny.
That's she actually has the capital to say that too, because he is
Yeah,
LCK.
but but Shochi and Quad, like, there's been a lot of solo kills in that lane, like both ways. Like, there's games where Shochi will solo kill Quad 4 times, and then there's games where Quad will solo kill Shochi 4 times. You know, it's actually kind of a battle in that mid lane. They do
That's what I
like
like to
playing
hear.
against each other quite a bit.
Oh yeah, any talent. Okay, TLC versus AOE's next in the docket.
I mean, now that's a more exciting match than I thought it would be, because
Yeah.
TLC showed up to be weaker. Well, I mean, I guess like weaker than we expected.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And AoE has been doing
Yeah,
very
fair.
well in scrims.
Oh.
But usually that's like not always a good sign. Like being scrim gods, like historically, there have been a lot of scrim god teams that don't show up on stage. But yeah, I mean, I guess at this point this is like a much more even battle. Like I don't know who I would really go for at this. Like I think maybe if AoE gets another like good like week of scrims in, and they go in with like too much confidence, maybe that's gonna like slap him around a little bit, because like TL supposedly like they've got their reality check kind of like us. So I would
Mhm.
say like TL is probably in more of a position to like double down the hard work. and like take it real serious for a week. So, and whereas like if AoE continues to like win a lot of scrims, maybe they get a bit complacent. So maybe I'll give the edge to TL for that one.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
TL turn it on because they started streaming the earliest as well. Like out of all the teams, from what I know, like they
Yeah,
started
they started
in
scrimming in
December.
December.
Oh
Like
wow.
I'm like still having like family dinners with grandma, and then like TL is screaming already. Like
Yeah,
what's going on? You know,
and
like
like
what is that?
Fly started streaming the week of, like week one, and
Yeah,
they
Fly. Well, TL scrimmed with a sub because Romer was not
yeah
here for
yeah
a while, and
Mhm.
Fly did not want to scrim with a sub, so they just waited for quad. But also for Fly, like I know Surdy was playing some
Ichi
scrims
or
as well, like in LCS. So
yeah.
their
Okay.
players did have some
That game
practice.
is going to be like, assuming that TL struggles against DSG, which based on recent form it feels like they likely will. Like that game is going to feel so doomed for whoever loses it. Like TL, because they've been struggling, with the loss to wild card and then they lost to Fly, and assuming they lose to DSG, like losing a fourth in a row is going to feel really backbreaking with the shorter season. And then AoE's like barely played any games. Like AoE played their two
Yeah.
games, or I guess 3 games against Maryville week 1,
Yep.
and they will play their second game on Saturday of week 3, and then they won't play a third series until the end of week 4. It's gonna be like Saturday the 10th, and AoE's gonna have played 2 series. It's crazy.
I mean, this schedule, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what's going on. Like I'm like I'm looking at
We've
it,
heard that a lot.
and then like okay, like let's just say it out loud so that like we can see that it makes no sense. Like week 1, 2 days of 2 matches. Week 2, 2 days of 2 matches. Week 3, 3 days of 2 matches. Week 4, 1 day, 3 games, 2 days, 2 games. Week 5, 2 days of 3 games. Week 6, 2 days of 3 games. Week 7, 3 days of 2 games. And then week 8, 3 days of like what? Why is it like this? I'm not sure.
You're keeping you on your toes.
But yeah,
Yeah,
and then like
like
the
I get
start times are all over the place. Like what's
Yeah.
happening?
like I get week 5 and 6 being 2 days of 3 games because it's they're the NACL Super Weeks, and they're the weeks that LCS is on break, so they give you
Yeah,
guys
sure,
LCS prime time. Like that at least
Mhm.
kind of makes sense. And then
sure.
you start at LCS time.
But
I have no idea why like week 4 randomly has 3 games on Friday though. That shit's crazy.
yeah, also I don't know if we're low rolling, but like I look at all our games and it's like okay, first of all, it's remote now, so not everyone is in PST. Like for me, I'm in EST. So the matches that start quote unquote at 8 or start at 11 p.m. and it's a BO3. So like technically, if it's a long LCS day and the match before us is a BO3, like we could end some of our games at like 2 a.m. for me, which like I don't know, that's kind of gross.
Gamer
But
hours.
yeah, but then I'm like, oh, okay, maybe we like only get a couple of those, you know. But no, like I'm looking at our matches, 8 p.m., 8 p.m., 8 p.m., 8 p.m., 8 p.m. Like we have 5 of those, and then all the other ones are like later starts, and then randomly we have one that starts at 12, which is also a bit interesting because like I'm not saying I'm not making excuses or coping like oh our matches are so late, everyone's tired. Like our players are adapting their sleep schedule for match days, like they'll sleep in a bit longer and make sure that they are well rested. But scrimming 12 to 5 PST and then randomly having matches that are outside of that slot does feel odd. Like typically you want to be scrimming around your match hours, but like I'm not gonna start scrimming at midnight, you know, like that makes no sense.
Mhm.
So that is also another interesting thing to consider is the whole like live patch thing and the whole like playing outside of scrim hours is an interesting roadblock that most people probably don't see as like a viewer or as like someone who's not inside of a team. But yeah, I know NACL is weird. Nothing to do about it. I have to adapt to it. It is what it is.
Fair, fair. For completeness' sake,
Yeah.
we do round out Sunday with Wildcard DSG and you guys versus Mirage. We've heard a little bit about your thoughts on Mirage, but how about Wildcard DSG? Do we feel
Uh,
like Wildcard's like on that level? Do we feel like DSG's on that level? I mean, we've only gotten to see one series out of DSG, and they lost it 2-0.
yeah. I
So
mean, they were, to be fair to them, playing versus
FlyQuest, yeah.
FlyQuest,
FlyQuest,
yeah.
which is not the easiest team to take games off of. We've scrimmed DSG a good amount as well. Once again, not leaking any champs or strats or anything. They are a bit all over the place. Not that they're playing bad, but it just like it doesn't feel like they're playing together. And that can be explained by probably experience difference. Like Perry and Minui and Young are much less experienced than Puma and Tenacity. So typically when you have two players, I mean Tenacity like is not like a veteran, right? But he's been like
Mhm.
playing on good rosters for a few splits. Um, and so I would say on that note, like when you have some players that have probably like a different level of view of the game or a different experience about the game, and you have some newer players, that's always the first big roadblock is trying to like sync up on how the players want to play the game together. Um, so wildcard then being a team that's what I would say is should be a weaker team, but they are a collegiate team, and I think those players have been playing together for a much longer time.
Yep.
Like that, even if you have weaker technically individual players, if you have people that are like the boys and they're like always playing together, talking about the game together, like know each other really well, at the end of the day, it is a team game. So I could see wildcard like keep their hot streak going at the beginning of the season when other teams are like a bunch of players that have never played together and are still gelling. So I could definitely see wildcard take it over DSG, but I think once the stronger teams start stabilizing and really like knowing how they want to play together and have more experience together, like those teams like wildcard should start having a tougher road. So for me, that series comes down to has DSG managed to like find their footing yet, or is wildcard gonna keep having that like the team diff factor?
Okay, it sounds like you're favoring that sort of team diff factor
For
for at
now,
least this
yeah.
game.
Like until
Yeah.
DSG like proves us wrong and shows that they're cohesive, which I very much think that they will be able to do that at some point soon.
Mhm.
I just don't know if they're going to be able to do it quite yet.
That's fair.
Fair. I do like that at least the schedule, as crazy as it is, starts to get more games deeper in. So there'll
Yeah,
be
yeah,
like more final versions of the
Yeah.
teams when you start spamming like 2 to 3 games a week.
yeah. Also helps scouting quite a bit when I'm able to watch games of the team that we're about to play against and like see how they're playing.
Hmm.
Yeah.
True, true. Well, I think that's going to get through pretty much all the topics we wanted to talk about here today. But thank you guys so much for joining us, both ZZ and Shirley here. Anything you guys want to shout out? Anything you guys want to say to those who are still tuned on in before we close out Interstellar Radio for the week?
Mm, Charlie, you have any shoutouts?
No. Shout
Wonderful.
out to anyone who's listening.
Yeah, shoutouts to the
Shout out to
Supernova
you.
community. Yeah, shoutouts to the Supernova
Yeah.
community. Shoutouts to the boys on the team and all the staff. The owners are great too. And I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'll shout out everyone in NACL. Like this league is pretty fun so far, and I hope it keeps being fun for the rest of the split.
All right. Well, great stuff, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. And we'll see everybody next time. Thank you for listening. And yeah, shout out to you guys.
Thanks for having us. That was a good time. Thank you.